Hi, boys and girls. This is Teacher Colleen, and today is the very first day of our kids summer program for the PV Kids Pathfinder Club. So this is for kids 10 and older, and this year I'm going to be reading to you from a series of books that I ordered that I think you're going to really enjoy. If you like hearing stories and you don't want the tedious reading all of the words, this is for you. You can sit back and relax and just listen. The books we're going to be reading is from an author, B.C. Tweet, and it's Greyson Gray is the series, and we're starting with book 1 called Camp Legend. How much fun is the summer when you get to go to camp? It's like the highlight of the whole summer. I know, I've had kids and I have grandkids and they love going to camp. And so I thought a camp story would be very appropriate for you guys. This is book 1 out of a series of 4 different books that is like a continuing story. So we're going to be able to get through book 1 this summer. We're going to read about 2 chapters a week, and I think you're going to like it. Maybe you can comment and let me know what you think. Greyson Gray Camp Legend by B.C. Tweet. And we're going to start with the prologue. Prologue, Wednesday night. Brandon's weary body hit the sofa like a sack of concrete, and its springs groaned as a comfortable crater formed around his backside. Camp counselors filled the lobby of Bickford Hall, some rubbing red swollen feet while others sprawled out on the floor, their arms shielding their tired pupils from heavy fluorescent lights. A veteran counselor, CJ, sighed wearily, massaging his own neck. I don't know what went wrong during these kids' childhoods, but someone must have dropped them on their heads or something. All but one of the counselors groaned in agreement. Well, at least your group's not as bad as Brandon's, a counselor named Tristan declared. His group reminds me of a circus. They look like a freak show and they act like animals. Hey! Brandon pulled himself up on the edge of his seat and glared at Tristan. The laughter melted to silence. Don't talk about them that way, okay? Tristan looked up. Yeah, okay, sorry, dude. I was just joking. I actually do admire some of them, like that kid with the red hat. He's something. Oh, he sure was, Brandon thought to himself. You keep good track of him at night. That cop car pulled up outside and I immediately thought it was for him. Everyone laughed, except Brandon. He knew the kid was already gone. There's a trainer watching the hall, Brandon sighed. He'll be fine. Unless he tries to go out the window, Tristan joked. Good thing it's 3 stories to the asphalt. CJ laughed. From what I've seen, I wouldn't put it behind him. Outside the window, a shadow approached, and all eyes converged on the winding sidewalk, where a heavy-set figure lumbered through sheets of rain. His bulk rushed up to the front door, rain cascading off him like a waterfall. A sudden crack of lightning flashed his portly silhouette against the wall and filled the doorway, just as thunder shook the glass doors. Squinting, his eyes as they adjusted to the light, blue lobby, the man shook the remaining water from his poncho. Whoo! That storm's punching a packing a punch. Oh, whatever, it just doesn't stop. The head counselor hung up his poncho on a peg and wiped the rain from his buzzed head. What if our kids are scared and want their mommies, Mac? Tristan asked. Mac smiled and tucked his shirt into his shorts. Well, we don't want anything like that to happen to Dan, like what happened to Dan in '08. A few laughed as Mac took his seat in front of the 20 male counselors. Tristan cocked his head. Why? What happened? Everyone hushed and turned toward Mac. He dropped his bulk into his favorite recliner and took his time adjusting his weight into the old cushion. Well, back then, kids were scared more about storms and monsters rather than terrorists or drone swarms or whatever they think about these days. The older counselors chuckled As the newer counselors leaned in closer to catch every word, Brandon stood up and looked out the window toward the observatory. Well, Dan was about to sleep when a kid cries out for him, says there's a monster in his closet. Matt paused, creating more tension and suspense. So, Dan, being a veteran counselor, decided it was a good idea to tell him monsters only eat kids who don't sleep. The counselors laughed lightly, waiting for the rest of the story. But the kid then says that his mother says the government locks up all the monsters. Frustrated, Dan says sometimes the government can't get them all and that he should go to sleep or he'll get eaten. Then he goes back to bed. Matt reached down to remove his soggy shoes. Next thing he knew, there were cops knocking on his door. Why? One of the new counselors asked, impatient. Well, Matt continued, turns out the kid barricaded the imaginary monster in his room and snuck out to the police station and let them know that they had missed one. Wild laughter echoed down the halls, where a sole figure slowly padded down the center of a dark stretch of carpet. The kid thought he was some kind of hero. A flash of lightning illuminated the hall as a young boy crept toward them like a drugged zombie. Ignoring their presence, his blue striped pajamas hung loosely around his youthful frame. Rain hammered the roof, creating multiple rivulets down the glass doors as the boy's labored breathing competed against the pounding rain. He stopped in the center of the room, head low, mouth agape, eyes closed as he rocked back and forth. Hey, buddy. You okay, Mac asked. 10. The boy spoke plainly, his eyes still closed. A frown creased Mac's brow and his large head tilted to the side. What? 10? 10 what, son? 9. Whose kid is this? He's mine, Brandon stated as he rushed over to the boy. 8. Austin, are you awake? He's counting down. What is he counting down to? I don't know. 7. The room grew tense as the counselors sucked in their breath and slid to the edge of their seats. 6. The boy's whisper grew louder. His eyes opened and stared blankly out the window. Austin, look at me. 5. Brandon knelt and grabbed the boy's arms, looking straight into his eyes. Austin, wake up, Austin. 4. Austin, listen to me. What are you counting down to? 3. The counselors in the room stood up, muscles taut, eyes frantically darting from the boy to whatever his gaze led to, out the window. Wake him up! Quick, wake him up! Austin! Wake up! What happens at 0? 2. Austin snapped awake and turned toward Brandon with a desperation and fear he had never seen before. The boy's dry lips formed the last word, hesitated. He spoke. 1. Ooh. This is getting good, isn't it? What do you think happens at 0? Whew, I don't know. Let's go on. We're at chapter 1, okay? Leaving us in some suspense. 4 days ago, Sunday afternoon, I still remember the legends and pranks my counselor pulled on me 10 years ago, CJ said as he stuck a loop of masking tape onto one of the incoming campers' room signs on the 3rd floor of Bickford Hall, the future home of 18 7th grade campers. The observatory legend, the legend of Paul Newton, squirt gun wars at night. The veteran counselor closed his eyes as sweet memories played like a movie in his mind. Brandon smiled, shook his head as he pressed the last sign onto one of his future campers' doors. It said, Morris College All Sports Camp, Cowboys Gold. The name, Greyson Gray. His major, rugby. His minor 1 is rock climbing, and his minor 2, horseback riding. Brandon smoothed the sign out and turned to CJ. Legends, huh? CJ grinned mischievously, mounting one of his own Cowboys purple signs up across the hall. Yeah, I'd tell you all about them, but the legends are not something to be shared loosely, CJ whispered. Tonight, prepare your kids, you know, build up the suspense, turn out the lights, you know, all that. I'll come by and let you know how it's done. And then the fun is all yours. You can even make up your own legend if a kid asks some dumb question you don't feel deserves an honest answer. Brandon's thoughts wandered to the week ahead. Babysitting 9 7th graders from morning to night. Would it be as bad as some said it can be? Well, it's almost the time, CJ warned, interrupting his thoughts. The early ones are probably heading here from the rec center right now. Brandon shook off the nerves tingling up his spine and was about to head to the room for one last moment of peace when he heard voices rising from the stairway. This is it, Sammy, 3rd floor. I'm a Cowboys Gold, came the lispy reply. Does that mean I have to paint myself gold? I'd rather be a Cowboys albino. A boy emerged from the staircase with a suitcase in his left hand, an oversized backpack that hung down to his knees, and a huge box fan, wobbling precariously under his right arm. His short black hair was matted to the side, and his thick eyelashes were dark enough that one might think he used eyeliner. A slightly lazy left eye offset a ridiculous smile that revealed a need for braces in the future. His gray-haired grandmother followed him closely, lugging another 2 suitcases. Brandon sighed inwardly, but rushed over to introduce himself. Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm going to be your counselor for the week. Or are you? The boy furrowed his brow and puckered his mouth to one side as his lazy eye rolled inward toward his nose. Brandon froze, his arm still extended for a handshake. His lips moved to speak, but he didn't know how to respond. Yeah, I am. And your name is? Thammy. But only people call me that. Brandon laughed, thinking this might all be a joke. He glanced at the grandmother, hoping for an ally or some explanation of Sammy's strange behavior, but she was glaring at him like he had just farted in church. Aren't you going to go take these things, boy? Oh, yes, sorry, ma'am. Let me take those for you. Sammy, Brandon offered as he reached for the suitcase and the fan. If you'll follow me, your room is just down the hall. As Brandon led them past his own room, he could hear CJ laughing inside. Did CJ know this kid? There's a window, Grandma. I can see outside. Grandma's words were softened with love. Oh, that's good, Sammy dear. But that meant the squirrels can look in too. They'll be eyeing my nuts. Brandon choked and quickly faked a cough to camouflage his shock before Sammy removed a large package of salted peanuts from his backpack and hugged them close to his chest. I'm nuts for nuts. Even my teeth nuts salty. Brandon nodded awkwardly and blurted out his exit plan. Well, I feel free to unpack your things here and make yourself at home. I'll be in my room just down the hall if you have any questions. He left before he could hear any response and rushed into his room where CJ was on his bed, nodding with a knowing smirk. Brandon flopped face down on his bed. What the hey? CJ laughed and turned toward Brandon. Good luck with that one. He comes every year, and he's always a handful. He's funny, though. Are they all going to be like him? CJ took a reassuring note. Nah, there's always one that makes it worth it. Well, usually. Greyson Gray held his mother's hand. her wedding band slightly pressing between his fingers. He felt his mother's attention and looked up at her as they approached the big capital-like building with shining golden letters printed on the side. Bickford Hall. Greyson's mother let go of his hand and ran her fingers through the brown hair sticking out the sides of his worn red baseball cap, with a white G stitched on the front. Smiling faintly, he tried to put on a happy face for his mother, but something restrained it. He hadn't been happy enough to truly smile in months. In fact, it had been 10 months and 13 days. Greyson? Yeah, he replied in his quiet, still boyish voice. This is Bickford Hall. I know. His mother smiled bleakly and knelt beside him. Their eyes held fast to one another for a moment, knowing each other's pain, but she was first to look away, not able to bear it much longer. With a new determination, she reached around him, pulled the shifting straps of his heavy backpack. Are you sure you have all you need? Yup. Do you know where you're going? Yup, 3rd floor. She nodded slowly, smoothing out his snug white t-shirt and taking one last look into his calm green eyes. Remember, do to others what you would want them to do to you. I will. And try to have fun, Grays. She pinched the tip of his nose, but his smile remained stagnant. Gray, I want to see your smiling face and hear you laugh again. Tears welled up in his mother's eyes, but she brushed them away, laughing lightly. And I'm sure all the cute girls here will too. Greyson blushed and looked at his feet. Okay, Mom, I'll try. You know, Dad was a little ladies' man at your age. Greyson's face stiffened and he looked into his mother's eyes. Or at least he claimed he was. She smiled and lost herself in a daydream for a moment. Snapping back to reality, she spoke softly. He would want you to be happy, you know that, right? I know. Then do something about it. If you know something needs to change and you have the power to do it, you just do it. Dad thought he had the power. Greyson, she snapped. The boy stopped abruptly. He looked past her at the giant concrete building just paces ahead and watched the parents and children parading to their destinations. Children with their moms and dads. Greyson, I'll be back on Friday to watch you in the Camp Olympics. Promise me you'll be smiling by then. I need you back. His mother held out her hand with her pinky outstretched. Greyson sighed and noticed a group of boys gazing at the woman holding out her pinky. Oh, don't mind what they think of us. Do you promise? Greyson reached out his pinky and grabbed his mother's. They shook twice and released. Then, before he could resist, his mother pulled him to her and squeezed him so close the brim of his hat pressed against her and fell to the ground. Feeling the unfamiliar breeze on his hair, Greyson gasped and squirmed free from the embrace. Like a whip, his hand shot to the hat and shoved it back on his head. Crisis averted. He repositioned it just right and offered a faint smile to his mom. She stood up and nodded with an understanding sigh. Hey, have a great week. I love you. Love you too. Greyson watched her walk down the winding sidewalk until she had turned a corner past the recreation building. Once she was gone, he turned, looked up at the colossal Bickford Hall with glittering gold letters, and made his way to his room. Hi, I'm Brandon. I'll be your counselor for the week. The twin boys with identical blonde hair hanging down to their eyebrows and swooping over their ears smiled at him mischievously. The one with slightly pudgier cheeks jerked out his hand. Jared Alderman, he excitedly pumped his chin upward. Pleasure to meet you. This is my brother Nick. Nick extended his hand and shook Brandon's hand. I was born second. Brandon smiled and nodded. Good to know. The boy's father reached between the two and thrust his hand toward Brandon's. Thank you so much. You shouldn't have any trouble with these two. I've got to run, but it's good to know they're in capable hands. No problem. When Brandon removed his hand, he felt paper. He looked down and caught a glimpse of a green bill. Yeah, I'll take them from here. Let's go, boys. Follow me to your room. As he walked past his room, rubbing the smooth paper in his hand, he smiled at CJ. Whew, things were finally looking up. Wow, nice pad. The chicks will dig this, sweet, Jared quipped. Nick laughed quietly and blushed at Brandon. You wish. The chicks are staying at Ben's Hall, Brandon informed him. Who is this Ben and how can I get to know him? Nick shook his head and began unpacking his things. Jared's eyes twinkled and his eyebrows jumped in anticipation of Brandon's answer. Ben's, B-I-N-Z. It's 100 yards away. Jared pumped his chin again with a sly smile that revealed 2 large front teeth. Just a quick dash. Brandon smiled and watched Nick start to put the sheets on his bed as Jared walked over to him and reached for his hand. How much my dad give ya? Brandon withdrew his hands. Oh no, that's between your dad and me. He gave my last counselor 100. What? Brandon opened his hand and looked down at the green bill. His eyes frantically scanned the bill and landed on the number in the corner. $1 million. A fake! Brandon's crestfallen gaze rolled toward Jared, who then burst into laughter and jumped on his bed, the veins in his neck pulsing out as his face grew red. Nick merely shook his head and giggled to himself. You know, he paid Dad $1 to do that to you. Brandon crumpled up the bill and threw it at Jared. Freaking kid. Brandon, CJ's voice came from the hall. You got a couple of kids here. Great. More angels. He turned to the twins, who were still giggling. He felt the need to explain a few more rules, especially for the troublemaker with the pudgy cheeks and the large front teeth. Make sure you stay on this level and turn in any electronics or drones you may have brought on accident or on purpose. Yeah, what's up with that rule, Jared asked. How are we supposed to get deliveries, and manage our social media presence? Brandon just shook his head and sped to the hallway. CJ was down the hall visiting with a few of his campers. They looked normal enough. Why wouldn't he get normal campers? Hey, Brandon. Yes? Brandon spun around. A young, frail boy looked up at him with the largest eyes he had ever seen. They were deep eyes, sunken into his pale face, but they were glazed over with deep concentration, like they were looking right through him. You're my counselor. I'm Austin, the boy stated plainly. Yeah, nice to meet you. I've already moved my things in, and my parents have left. They've given you this note to help you with my condition. It basically says that my psychiatrist doesn't believe that I can tell the future. Yet. Can I sit on my bed until I'm needed? Brandon took the small folded note. Yeah, sure, bud. Thank you. The boy turned on his heels and slowly walked toward his room. Wow, Brandon muttered under his teeth. Brandon? Austin poked his head outside the room. Yeah? Your next camper is about to arrive. I think he needs some of your help. How do you know he needs help? It would be easier if you just read the note. Okay. Too late to help with that now. Bang! A series of loud thuds reverberated through the stairwell. Patrick! A woman's voice echoed loudly. Why did you do that? Think! I hate my stupid suitcase. It's stupid. Your case isn't stupid, Patrick. Just because something isn't what you want it to be doesn't mean it's stupid. I hate it! Brandon stepped into the stairwell as Patrick passed him empty-handed. His mother stood several steps down, holding a broken suitcase with one hand, trying to stuff clothes back into it with the other. Here, let me help, ma'am. Aw, thank you very much, the middle-aged woman responded, and the two filled the suitcase, and Brandon carefully carried the broken case up to the hall and into Patrick's room, where Patrick sat in the center of the floor, legs crossed and arms folded. This room sucks. Brandon hesitated for a moment in the doorway. It's the same as all the other rooms. It'll look better when you get your sheets on and a fan blowing. No, it won't. Patrick, his mother intervened, you're going to have a blast. Your dad and I are paying a lot of money for you to go here and learn your sports and make friends. I hate sports, and I hate friends. Oh, that's silly, Patrick. Of course you don't hate your friends. I hate them. Don't say that. Why not? I do. Because hate is a strong word. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. Brandon stepped over to the mother and son. Patrick, you're going to have a lot of fun this week. Come on, I guarantee it. It's the 4th golden rule here. Have fun. Patrick glared at him. Following rules isn't fun. What a stupid rule. Well, the kid has a point. The woman sighed and touched Brandon's shoulder. They took one last look at the sulking child and walked together into the hall. You know, she started to whisper, Patrick has ADHD. But for this week, we have upped his medication at breakfast. And you could get him to snap out of it with some encouragement, I'm sure. Please just be patient with him. Oh, I'll do my best, ma'am. Thank you, and good luck. The woman gave a quick look of sympathy before turning to leave. And as soon as she was out of sight, Brandon rubbed his throbbing temples. ADHD with depression, huh? CJ stood down the hall, shaking his head at Brandon. Boy, I feel for you. Brandon looked down the hall to remind himself of the challenges he had in each of the rooms, and the situation began to overwhelm him. He let out a deep, frustrated sigh, put his arm against the wall, and slammed his forehead into it. Hey, Brandon. Brandon heard the unfamiliar boy's voice and cringed. What would be wrong with this one? He reluctantly looked to his right through the open door. It was Greyson Gray in Liam Swank's room. Each boy sat in his bed across from the other and watched him with expectant eyes. Already, he began to calm down. There was something about this boy with the red baseball cap that just made him feel at ease. Hey, Greyson. Brandon walked into the boy's room. Yeah? This is Liam. We just met. Hi, Liam said shyly, avoiding eye contact and raising his head for a timid wave. Greyson arched one eyebrow. He says he has a stuttering problem when he gets a little excited or nervous, and he says he's pretty much always nervous. Oh, yeah? Brandon asked, looking at the freckled boy with buzzed blonde hair. I have a little speech problem myself, but, you know, whenever I get around girls, I've been known to get kind of nervous and say things I didn't even understand. Liam smiled widely and giggled. Really? Yeah, but most of them can see right through that and are flattered by the attention. Liam looked at his shoes and lost himself in thought for a few seconds. Greyson nodded with a faint smile toward Brandon. Cool. You kind of seem like a good counselor already. Brandon's face lifted and he hesitated for an awkward pause. Yeah? Well, thanks, Greyson. It's going to be a great week. The boy nodded. We're not doing anything if you need any help or something, Greyson asked with a shrug. Liam jumped up, bright-eyed and eager to help. All right. How about helping Patrick move in and cheer him up a little bit, huh? All right, Greyson agreed, shifting his hat. We got to be unified to beat purple, right? Why, that's right. Go, gold! 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 Not far from the glittering golden letters of Bickford Hall, but well hidden from any prying eyes, a man's thumb stroked the black barrel of his glistening shotgun. His fingers wrapped around the solid mahogany pump. He sat in the dark alone, but the array of flashing buttons on a control panel lit his pasty white pocket-marked skin in hues of green and red. He spoke in the empty room as if to himself, but a small wireless earphone that looped over his ear blinked methodically. His calm, husky voice whispered, "You have the destination?" Good. Then that is all we need. The storm should move in midweek. No more delay. He paused, listening to a response in his ear. There hasn't been any suspicion. He propped his legs on the control panel next to the small security television. The tiny screen displayed the front entrance of Bickford Hall, where boys and girls flooded in with uninhibited excitement. A moment later, the screen flickered, and a silvery hallway appeared where two grisly men, armed with automatic rifles, guarded a thick metal door. Camp has begun. It should be no problem. Ooh, I wonder what that's all about. It's getting very mysterious, and it sounds like those kids coming for camp are kind of an exuberantly strange group of boys. What do you think? I think we're going to hear more about those boys and the counselors and the mystery of whatever's going on at Camp Legend next week when we read chapters 2 and 3. So for this week, don't go online and read ahead. That would be cheating, you know, and kind of ruin the suspenseful journey that we're on this summer as we read this book. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 chapters in the book, or prologue in chapter 1, and I hope that you'll come back next week to hear chapter 2 and 3. Until then, you have a fun week, enjoy your summer break, and be safe out there. Bye-bye.